Like many other people, I was made aware of the existence of Joe Exotic through last week's A Night with John Oliver, where I saw this amazing campaign video.
First thing is, I am not cutting my hair. I'm not changing the way I dress. I refuse to wear a suit. I am gay. I've had 2 boyfriends most of my life. I am broke as shit. I have a judgment against me from some bitch down there in Florida. And this is all paid for by the committee of Joe Exotic Speaks for America.
Wow!
And I thought to myself, wow, that man is absolutely crazy. And about 4 years later, I found out that I was completely correct. Tiger King, Murder, Mayhem, and Madness is a 7-part documentary series that explores the strange world of the exotic pet trade. It specifically focuses on the feud between private zoo owner Joe Exotic and animal rights activist Carol Baskin. I'll be honest, I'd only heard about this series because of memes, specifically the ones about Carol allegedly killing her husband.
If somebody wanted to kill you, then they would put, like, sardine oil all over you. Something that the cat wants to eat, not something the cat wants to drool on.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
So I listened to the internet because, let's be honest, the internet's never wrong. And thanks sweet baby Jesus I did. I do not want to waste any more time, let's just dig into this thing. According to the filmmakers, the series was initially supposed to just be an examination of the many faces of the exotic pet world. But over the course of the 5-year filming process, things just kept getting crazier and crazier. I mean, it's why there's such a radical shift in tone at about episode 3, which really digs in the true crime elements of the series. Tiger King is a perfect example of truth being stranger than fiction. Yes, it's cliche to say, but there are so many twists and turns to this wildly insane story. There's so many mood shifts throughout the series as well. At one point you'll be laughing, and at the next you'll be angrily shaking your head in disbelief. I mean, you're really on the edge of your seat because there's no way to tell what will happen next, even if you know the conclusion to the story. Now, I don't think just because Joe is the main focus, that doesn't mean that there aren't other owners here. I'll be honest, like 99.99% of them are just terrible, with very few redeeming qualities. I mean, when the literal drug-dealing murderer comes out as the best-looking person on your show, you know that there's something crazy going on. I mean, we'll start with the small fish and work our way to the bigger fish. Tabraue is only shown once in the show, and he's the most aloof of all the owners. He has his own private compound for the animals, and doesn't really let the public onto his land. He was also a notorious drug kingpin who smuggled tons and tons of cocaine into Miami with his father, and later he was sentenced to 100 years in jail for his $75 million drug operation, and his connection to the murder of an FBI informant. My jaw dropped when they first started talking about that in the series, but believe it or not, like I said earlier, this dude is the most sane owner shown in the series. I mean, the bar isn't set that high to clear from the beginning, but it gets worse, ladies and gentlemen. Stark is the next small owner who doesn't really play a big role in the series. I mean, there isn't much to say about him besides his love of monkeys, since he has one crawling on him almost every time you see him on the show. So, yeah, guy just seems like your normal run-of-the-mill a-hole who happens to own exotic animals. Next. Ansel the First seems like he's on the up and up when it comes to his zoo. He has a large area with free-roaming animals, and he's worked on tons of big Hollywood productions like Ace Ventura, Mighty Joe Young, and Disney's The Jungle Book. No, not that one. Not that one either. Yeah, this one. And even Britney Spears during her iconic 2001 VMAs performance. So it's kind of a huge kick in the nuts when we learn more about his real practices. The alleged polygamy cult that he runs, with slave-like working hours and pitiful wages, trading sex for better treatment, forcing the ladies to change their names and get breast enhancement surgeries. I mean, it's also implied he euthanized many of his tigers after they outgrew the age for cub petting. I think what's so devious about him specifically is how charismatic he is. He lures in these young people with these damn animals and takes advantage of them. Thankfully, the zoo was raided shortly after they finished filming the documentary, and as far as I'm concerned, out of all of the owners, he is by far the slimiest dude. He's like a turd covered in chocolate. Yeah, he looks good on the outside, and on the inside, he is rotten, smelly, and disgusting. Next. This guy's another one that really feels sleazy and gives off the aura of fakeness. Funnily enough, he's a grade A con man who literally has one type of outfit, even at a funeral.
Look at this dude.
Lowe also has a domestic violence mark on his record and other problems in Vegas. He also looks like the dude at the bar who keeps picking up the younger women because they think he has money. My man's net worth is anywhere from 10 million to negative 10 million, and it seems like everyone he goes into business with ends up regretting it. That also includes our man before, Tim Stark. It is also heavily implied that he and another associate of his set up Joe to the FBI and got him implicated in a murder-for-hire plot. I will commend the filmmakers for their portrayal of the events and just letting their own words make them look bad. You give people just enough rope to hang themselves, and 9 times out of 10, they'll end up dead on the noose. Another all-around really scummy dude. Next. So let's get to the woman that's been on everyone's mind.
And that's Carol Baskin down at Big Cat Rescue. Yeah, the Carol Baskin, that bitch Carol Baskin.
She's the self-proclaimed Mother Teresa of big cats, Carol Baskin. On the surface, she seems like the most saintly out of the group, and in some ways she is painted to be the hero. She's opposed to the other owners for their abuse of the cats, and fighting a noble cause. Really, she does. But slowly the series wipes away that squeaky clean image that she gives off, and you see she is just as down and dirty as the rest of them. The crown jewel of her dirtiness is the disappearance of her husband Don Lewis, and all the evidence pointing to her being the killer. Episode 3 is when the series really takes a focus on that action and really digs deep into the subject. This was the very episode that piqued my full interest and kept me locked for the rest of the series. The filmmakers went all out when finding the right people to interview, from Don's ex-wife whom he left for Carol, his kids, his accountant, property manager, and even his lawyer. You have to see it to believe it. And in my humble opinion, it seems pretty evident what happened. Oh, and also, even O.J. Simpson believes she did it.
Oh, I guess he did do it.
Takes one to know one, my friend. Besides the fact that she possibly is a cold-blooded killer, you have her looking like a pure hypocrite when it comes to the criticism she's leveling against Joe and Doc. She has tigers in cages while complaining that they have tigers in cages and saying it's abusive. While this is how some of her cats are living.
Are you serious?
Even though I don't think it's fully fair that Carol is being 100% painted as the bad guy, to me it comes down to 2 reasons why. 1, the internet hates blatant hypocrites. And 2, the internet loves tearing down people who are up on a soapbox. So the memes took over the internet by storm, which was tons of free press for the show, furthering its stream count. Needless to say, Carol did herself no favors by agreeing to be on the show and thinking that she'd be unscathed.
Hey, all you cool cats and kittens, it's Carol and Sapphire here in the background. And for today's daily update, I'm just...
Next. Now we get to the man of the hour, Joe Exotic. What is there to say that hasn't already been said? He's a gay, redneck, gun-toting, tiger-owning, self-proclaimed Tiger King. Joe quite possibly is one of the strangest people to have ever lived, and by all accounts, was a huge prick. The series points out the dueling nature of him. At one point, he's cooking a Thanksgiving dinner for hundreds of people, and at the other, he's firing people just because the cameras are rolling. The ego of this man knows no bounds, and you get a very vivid picture of what he was like throughout the entire series. We hear from one of his ex-husbands, a bunch of his former staff members, the other owners, and many more outsiders. In many ways, he can be compared to Alex from A Clockwork Orange. He's a terrible person through and through, but there are so many points where you can't help but feel really bad for him. But just when you start to, the series reminds you why you didn't like him in the first place. I think the perfect example is when one of his workers, Saf, gets his hand bitten by a tiger. Joe immediately gets medical attention and takes charge to help as much as he can, even tying a tourniquet around his arm. But then, he goes and puts on an EMS bomber jacket. Like, bro, there are certain things the drip can wait for. You also get to see how he lures people in as well to get workers for the zoo. taking those who have little to nothing, like ex-convicts, and providing them a shelter and a job in exchange for work. And you see how terrible the living conditions for these people are, them even eating expired meat. He also has a huge problem with getting young and dumb straight boys to marry him by using drugs and tigers. One of his husbands ended up getting the receptionist pregnant, and his other husband tragically killed himself in an accident. So yeah, Joe goes through a lot of ups and downs through this crazy 5-year period. It's understandable how someone like this can feel like they're being pushed to the edge by this one person and want to seek retribution for it. Now, just because I've been praising the series this whole time does not mean I don't have any problems. One major issue I have is that some of the events of the series feel really disjointed. Sometimes it feels like you cover the same topic 3 or 4 times before you move on. It isn't as bad in later in the series, but it can be a really major annoyance for the first few episodes. I also do have a major problem with the series omitting a lot of details about Joe's racism. According to many staff members, he was super casually racist. Being a person of color, I think you're leaving out some vital information that would have helped me form a better judgment of him as a person. Now, the series gives you more than enough reasons to dislike him, but I think leaving that out is a disservice to everybody. With a series that had a filming take place over such a long period of time, you're bound to gloss over a few details. But it seems like sometimes there are bits and pieces of information missing. Like there are many unanswered questions that we still have by the end of the series. The one that comes to mind for me being, is this over? Could we be seeing a second series about the fallout that Joe's arrest and conviction had on the exotic pet world? I mean, I do hope that we get more resolution, and they did have a bit of a follow-up with the 8th episode, which was a glorified Q&A with some of the people featured in the series. There wasn't very much further insight into what was going on. The only real new information we got were more stories about Joe being crazy, which is not enough if you ask me. Hopefully the attention that this has gotten, we can really get more answers. While I initially wasn't sold, I had a very good time with Tiger King, and it's one of the best Netflix documentaries. I really hope they keep up this really good streak of quality content, because Lord knows all of us cool cats and kittens are gonna need it. I'm giving Tiger King, Murder, Mayhem, and Madness 9 out of 10 reels.